everybody. Welcome back to the Tipsy Ghost. We're your tipsy hosts, Sarah, and Lindsay.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
A couple weeks ago, we all got to experience the most magical concert I've ever been to.
We did.
We went to Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour.
We did.
And 2 out of the 3 of us were really looking forward to this
Oh my gosh.
concert.
I was really looking forward to it. And I had an amazing time.
Okay, you were. What did you think of the concert after you
I thought
went?
it was amazing. I'm really glad I went.
Lindsay had a great time.
I
Yeah.
did have a good time. As Boyson, she was next
I
to me.
know.
I was dancing and singing to every single song.
So we were all at the concert, but I sat in the nosebleeds because I was with my daughter and 2 of her friends and their moms, and Lindsay and Sarah were down together with my dentist and her daughter.
Your dentist, my husband's cousin.
It was a big party.
It was a big party. My sister came down at one point with her friend.
She did. I was trying not to fall over as I was supporting her and myself at the same time.
Oh, jeez.
I pretty much my sister just stood in front of me and I was behind her.
But they were both dancing, so it was like hips everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Was
Was it 1989?
Of course, it was during 1989. Me and her were just jamming out. It was so much fun.
I'm happy to report that I had the most magical experience ever. It was a perfect day. We took the whole day, relaxed, and got there early enough. We got there early enough to tailgate. I didn't have to wait in line for merch. I mean, I maybe waited 10 minutes, got exactly what I wanted. The weather was perfect. I mean, I had a beautiful day. I cried several times during the concert.
I bet that she would cry during All Too Well, and she did.
Oh, I cried during Miss Americana, the very first song, during the countdown.
When she came out.
But here's the other thing you have to remember. Like, I'm surrounded by 3 14-year-old girls who they live and die for Taylor Swift. And so they were looking forward to this even more than me, if you can believe that. And so emotions were already raw, and they were all videoing themselves as this countdown was going. And there is just tears and ugly crying going
It's some
on.
of my favorite pictures that you sent was of them just bawling.
Oh, and they looked, so beautiful in their makeup. The makeup, you can see tears running in their makeup. It was hilarious. But yeah, it didn't matter. We were sitting in the noseways. Didn't matter. We had the most awesome time ever. So my question for you is, what was your favorite era?
No.
What was your favorite era?
Absolutely not.
No, I had to think about it.
Mine is a tie.
Okay.
So 1989, obviously. And Reputation really surprised me.
Reputation was my favorite. But I absolutely loved Midnights, of course, because it was so good. But then they're all so good.
So my least favorite going in were Evermore Folklore, but there was not a single second of that 4 hours that I did not love.
Same.
You got on to me for missing Folklore. But
I was like, you can't miss Folklore.
I had to pee so bad. I had to pick an era I had to pee during. And Folklore is probably my least favorite era.
Okay, you guys know me, and you know I have to pee constantly. I didn't pee once during this concert.
Mm-hmm.
I held it for 4 hours. I danced the entire time. I stood the entire time. Didn't sit once.
We stood and danced the whole time.
And I sang my heart out to every single song, and it was an absolute blast.
Yeah, those are the best nights of my life.
Same.
Absolutely incredible.
Okay. Anyways, on to the story. I almost said stories, and then I remembered it's just one.
That has nothing to do with Taylor Swift. We just want to talk about her.
Yeah, I had to get that off my chest. So, if you guys will remember to last week's episode, I talked to you guys about the story of how in 1971, a man known as D.B. Cooper hijacked a plane, demanded $200,000 and 4 parachutes.
Mm-hmm.
He then jumped from the plane somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. And as a reminder, this is the only unsolved case of air piracy in the history of commercial aviation. We discussed a few of the suspects.
We had some nicknames for him, didn't we?
Dees Bees, because it was TBD about who DB was. So it was 2 Dees Bees about Dees Bees.
Dees Bees about Dees Bees Coops.
Okay, so here's Dees Bees for the
Hi, Dees Bees.
15th time. We also discussed a few of the suspects. So we talked about Ted Braden, Kenneth Christensen, and of course, John List. All right, so this week I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys about a few more suspects and how they tie into some pretty wild conspiracy theories.
All right.
So, next up, Dick Briggs.
Oh, no.
So this guy over here, he looks like, what's his name? Pablo
Escobar.
like the famous actor who's
Oh.
in not Escobar. He's in The Last of Us.
He's in that short in TikTok when he's like looking over in the car like this. And Nick Cage is in the other side.
Yes. Pedro Pascal.
Pablo.
Oh, Pablo Escobar was a Colombian drug lord.
Yes,
Mhm.
I know who Pablo
That's why I
Escobar
was
is.
laughing.
But he looks like Pedro Pascal, doesn't he?
He
But
also
you
looks like
know.
Pablo Escobar.
Pablo Escobar may not be too far off from what you're saying. Dick Briggs,
DB.
also DB. So Dick, he claimed to be a special forces soldier in Vietnam and also stated that he was an accomplished parachutist.
Okay.
Later in life, Dick became a cocaine dealer who, I know that's why I said, oh,
Pablo Escobar.
There we go.
Who made statements to his clients that he was the legendary D.B. Cooper. He even said that a, quote, hippie-looking couple at a party where him and this client were would just randomly end up finding some of his money that he hid after he jumped from the plane.
Was he saying this when he was sampling his product?
Don't ask questions, Lindsay.
No, listen, this guy's Dick Briggs has like a square face.
It doesn't look like him.
DB Cooper is like an elongated oval face. So,
Okay.
fake news, Dick.
So, strangely enough, a few days later, after he made this claim, that couple that he was pointing to, their son found some of the stolen cash and $20 bills strewn about the beach where they were. Reports vary on the total amount, but it was somewhere between $5,800 and $7,000 and matched the serial numbers. The money looked old and tattered, but like I mentioned, they were able to match those from the DB Cooper bills. Dick was eventually ruled out.
I know obviously everybody knows about DB Cooper. I did not realize that they found some of the money.
They
I thought
did.
it was forever lost. We never saw it.
Just a small amount out of the $200,000. And like I said, the reports vary. $5,800 to $7,000 is what I saw.
That's a very small amount, but it's something.
They were all in 20s, tattered and torn. So he was eventually ruled out because it turns out that he straight up lied about going to Vietnam and couldn't actually parachute. And also, like you've already mentioned, he doesn't really fit the description.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
He was a lot shorter and kind of stockier than the man that was described. And he also had a really bad temper when he drank. And if you remember from part 1, the description of D.B. Cooper was that he was very friendly and personable.
Relaxed.
Yeah. Oddly enough, about a month after the money was found, Dick died in a single car accident in Portland at the age of 41, which some say was a setup by the government.
Conspiracy.
But why?
Why not?
These are the questions. Okay, we'll talk about that at the end, but I have my questions too. We're moving on to Robert Rackstraw. A little background about Robert. He served in the Army as a paratrooper and explosive experts during the Vietnam War. It's said that during the war, he developed connections to a member from the CIA. He was discharged in 1971 for quote-unquote misconduct, whatever that means, 5 months before the hijacking. At one point, he was charged with murdering his stepfather, but was ultimately acquitted of these charges.
Wow. Okay, Bob.
In 1978, he was charged and convicted with stealing a plane and forging checks. This time, he spent roughly 2 years in prison. He
Stealing a plane.
was, and that was 7 years after the hijacking. He was initially dismissed as a suspect because authorities thought he was too young. He was, so DB was estimated to be between 35 and 45, and Robert was only 28 at the time of the hijacking.
I feel like they're crossing people off their list very easily.
I would agree with that. Also, if that information is coming from a witness, they're not always very accurate on their age statements. I know I wouldn't be.
35. No, he was 28.
I know. So still talking about Robert here, but we're going to enter a new character, a filmmaker named Tom Colbert, not related to Stephen. We're going to talk about Tom because he pretty much dedicated his life to figuring out the mystery of D.B. Cooper. And once he made his mind up that it was Robert Rackstraw, he pretty much did everything he could to prove that it was him.
Okay.
He kind of just disregarded every other suspect because he was hellbent that it was Robert. He created a 40-person investigation team that included former FBI agents to gather information to prove that Rackstraw was the hijacker.
Okay.
They stated that not only did Robert have the skill to pull it off, but he also matched the sketch almost perfectly. They obtained 2 coded letters, this is according to them, that were written by D.B. Cooper that stated, Quote, "And please tell the lackey cops D.B. Cooper is not my real name. I am First Lieutenant Robert Rackstraw. D.B. Cooper is not my real name." I mean, that's pretty straightforward if that's what it was decoded as, but
like that's him essentially confessing.
Right. So this was decoded by one of the 40-member team members.
Right.
So Colbert was convinced that Robert was a narcissistic sociopath who didn't think that he would ever get caught. He was just leading people on this whole time. Robert admitted to claiming that at one point he said he was Cooper, and he even called the news station to tell them, "Yeah, I'm DB Cooper," but later said, "Never mind, that was all a stunt."
He's my front runner so far.
Okay. Colbert believes that Rackstraw was working with the CIA.
Ooh.
And since
we're very impressed by the CIA.
So to say those 3 little letters.
Because the FBI is looking into this, and now we bring in the CIA.
Okay, so since CIA is over
Right.
FBI, they forced FBI to back off the investigation of Rackstraw. And therefore he was never really, I mean, he was investigated, but they let it go. They said, "Oh, no, it wasn't him. He wasn't the right age." There have been so many episodes on TV, just different channels that have done investigations into this, of course. But the one I found the most interesting was on the History Channel, of course. They approached Tom and they offered to basically buy this information from him.
Okay.
And they offered him to come onto the show and be interviewed and give his spiel about why Robert Rackstraw was like the front runner in this case. And so he went on the show, and it's called History's Greatest Mysteries. And on the show, they did not tell Tom that they were going to do this, but they brought in one of the stewardesses who was on the original flight.
Ooh.
And they laid out the picture of Robert Rackstraw in front of the stewardess, and they basically just said, "Do you think this is him?" And she said, "No, that's not the guy." And so after that, they disregarded it. They said, "Oh, then she doesn't recognize him. It's not him."
But it's also been how many years since?
Like 40
Yeah.
years.
Wait, so did they pay him still?
I don't know. He ended up suing them later.
Yeah,
he ended up
I
suing
would
like the
too.
FBI
Well,
later.
Maybe not the FBI, but yeah, that sounds like a really shady setup.
Yeah, it was. So this is a side note too, but if you're interested, there's like 4 short episodes called Where Are You, DB Cooper, I believe, on Netflix. They're very interesting. And they really go hard on this Tom Colbert with Robert Rackstraw stuff. But also Billy Jensen. He was on the History Channel episode, and he was the one going like, "Do you think this is the person?" to the stewardess. And she was like, "No." And he's like, "Well, then it can't be it. This isn't it." I was like, "Come on, Billy." I wasn't sure how I felt about that. But okay, after the show aired, the FBI closes the case in 2016. So after they closed the case, sadly, Robert died in 2019 of a heart condition. So if he was DB Cooper, he went ahead and took that secret to the grave.
We'll never know.
We'll never know. Okay, here we go. Barbara Dayton. Barbara was born Robert Dayton and later served in the Army during World War II. After discharge, Dayton worked with explosives in the construction field and wanted to become a professional pilot, but couldn't actually get a commercial pilot's license.
Okay.
Dayton was the first person in the state of Washington to have gender reassignment surgery in 1969 and
that's
changed
cool.
her name to Barbara. Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
She claimed to have staged the hijacking in 1971 and that she presented herself as a man because by this time she was going by Barbara. But she presented herself as a man in order to get back at the airline industry for not giving her her pilot's license. She also said that the money was hidden in a cistern in Oregon, but later recanted the entire story after she learned that she could still be charged with hijacking when she was saying these things.
I was going to say, what's the statute of limitations here? Why are people confessing to this?
I thought that was funny.
When this picture looks
The picture on the left?
pretty compelling.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Even as Barbara, I think so.
So it's showing, so she's got 2 pictures up here. One of, Barbara, and then one of Barbara, I'm assuming before the reassignment surgery.
That's Robert. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It looks very similar
Yes.
to the DB Cooper sketch.
So the last suspect I want to tell you about is Richard Floyd McCoy Jr.
Dick Floyd McCoy.
His ears are too big.
Dick Floyd McCoy.
But are they?
Richard, he was an Army vet who served 2 tours in Vietnam as a demolition expert and later with the Green Berets as a helicopter pilot. After his time in the military, he was a warrant officer in the Utah National Guard and recreational skydiver for funsies.
Yeah, why not?
On April 7th, 1972, he staged the best copycat hijacking when he boarded United Airlines Flight 855. So this is a similar plane to what D.B. Cooper hijacked. This was in Denver, Colorado. He threatened that he had a hand grenade that was later proven to be a paperweight.
Yeah, of course.
And just as a reminder, DB said he had explosives that were not explosives. So
it's a pattern of behavior.
Similarities here.
Let's check and make sure the explosives are real, people.
That's true.
How would you?
I mean,
do you want an example?
I feel like a hand grenade and a paperweight would look very different.
I don't know. All you had to do was open the bag, and they were like, oh, "There's grenades in there."
DBs, I can understand because it looked more legit.
I don't know what this looked like, to be honest with you. Okay. But he also supposedly had a handgun, which is scary.
Yeah.
He also demanded 4 parachutes, and this time he demanded $500,000.
And so was this after D.B. Cooper?
It was. It was, about 6 months later.
Still pretty soon.
Right. After he received the money, he demanded the pilot fly the plane, and once it took off, he jumped out over Provo, Utah. So this is all very similar to, just like they called it, it's a copycat. He left behind his handwritten hijacking instructions and his fingerprints on a magazine that he was reading. So, fatal flaw. He was arrested on April 9th with the ransom money in his possession. But I thought this was an important point. He survived the jump.
Okay.
He was tried and convicted of his crime and sent to serve a 45-year sentence at Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary. 2 years later, he managed to escape by crashing a garbage truck through the main gate.
Oh.
3 months later, he was tracked down in Virginia Beach and killed during a shootout with the FBI agents.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
The FBI states that they did not consider him a suspect because of the age difference.
Oh, my gosh, FBI.
But also, they said that he was in Las Vegas on the day of the D.B. Cooper hijacking, and he had Thanksgiving with his family the day after. So
I mean, that's
the timeline doesn't fit, but does it?
Sounds like he had an alibi. That's a lot more forgiving than, his age. Age is like the easiest thing to mess up, I feel like.
It's like it does, but then there's still that day. Like there's still several hours there that he was unaccounted for, but they're saying like this day and like the next day.
Where
but
was
not
his
this
family
chunk.
at? Because didn't he got out of the airplane in Oregon, right?
Washington State.
Washington. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm not... Okay.
I had a few questions after reading about this case, and you guys kind of touched on a few of them already, but I wanted to know what happened to the tie. Remember that clip-on JC Penney tie that he left on the plane?
I love a good clip-on tie.
They found it?
It was stored in an archive from 1971 until 2009. There were multiple tests done and samples collected in hopes that they would find out where it came from, like which company.
Yeah, sure.
But nothing came from it.
Okay. Good to know.
There were 8 cigarette butts that were recovered during the investigation.
Oh, the days of being able to smoke on an airplane.
I know.
I can't imagine. Like, people bring in handguns on an airplane. I'm like, what?
They also just, like, literally walked at the... I don't know. This whole thing is a rabbit hole. But, like, they would walk up to the counter and just say... Like, you didn't have to book anything in advance. You're just like, I need a flight to Denver. And they'd be like, all right, there's an opening. Here's $20. You just go board the plane.
Get on a flight with 30 people. Smoke 8 cigarettes.
Whatever.
Oh my gosh. What a time to be alive.
I think things changed after that. There were 8 cigarette butts that were recovered during the investigation and sent to the Bureau lab for testing, but they all of a sudden went
cigarettes
missing.
were too old.
They went missing?
They went missing.
Conspiracy.
Nobody knows what happened to them. I mean, what? That's
all
messed up.
8.
No. False. Somebody knows what happened to them.
Somebody knows.
And their name starts with C and ends with A.
Middle initial I.
That is true. Points wasn't picking it
No,
up.
I was. I was trying to come up with a name.
The CIA interfered and they said
Christina.
these are our butts now.
Aguilera.
Christina Auguilera.
Christina Aguilera said these are our butts now.
Where they are.
And she took
You
the
better
butts.
start talking, Christina.
Christina, you took the butts.
Xtina, pull it together.
Forgot about Xtina. All right. So basically, if you want to go down this rabbit hole even more, you got to remember this has been going on for 60 years. It's finally closed officially, but is it? There's a lot of armchair sleuths out there still trying to solve this case.
I don't feel like it can ever be closed unless it's solved.
Well, true. I mean, I don't know. I mentioned the Netflix special.
Yes.
You can also go to dbcooper.com. There's an official website.
It's not called deesbees.com.
Missed opportunity. And if you're more into podcasts, which obviously you are if you're listening here, you can check out the Cooper Vortex, and their episodes are at least 2 hours long.
Oh, gosh.
And they interview everybody who is like involved in the investigations, writing books, has theories. It is, I don't know how they have so much information, because when you hear the story, you're like, there's not even that much to go off of, but somehow people have made so much content out of this. It's unreal.
I mean,
Wow.
it's probably one of the biggest unsolved cases in U.S. history.
Apparently it is.
I just need to say,
Okay.
CIA, please do not come after us. We love you. And we're just kidding when we call you Christina Auguilera.
I'm not kidding.
Please
It's our
don't come.
code name.
Please don't come after us.
I think it was Robert/Barbara.
I'm with the first Robert.
Yeah. Dayton.
Yes. I don't know. I think that makes sense.
Okay, that's who you're going with.
I'm going to go with them.
Okay. I'm going to go Rackstraw.
I'm going with Robert Rackstraw as well.
Although
He's
Floyd
too young.
McCoy,
He's too young.
If his age is the only thing that is excluding him, no, I'm going with him.
if this picture was taken
Barbara-
when he was 28, he looks older than 28 to me.
And if they asked the eyewitness 40 years later,
I know.
no. Like,
You're right.
memory should be...
Barbara confessed, and she only took it back when she
Lots
realized
of
she
people
was.
confessed.
Robert did
Listen.
too. He called the news stations and said it was me.
Yeah, lots of
And
people
then what
confessed.
did he do?
He said, never mind, it wasn't me.
Yeah,
Just like she did. She was like,
Mm.
never mind, I don't want to get in trouble.
that's different.
And so many others confessed who you didn't even mention. Like, so many people have confessed to this.
They interviewed thousands of people. I just talked to you guys about a couple that I thought were the most interesting in my opinion. So we talked in episode 1, we all kind of talked about, did he die during the jump? And a couple of us said, yeah, he died.
I
But
think
these
he did.
people didn't die. They were alive afterwards. So
Mhm.
that changes everything
I
too.
pulled
I
it out
s-
of the episode, but I said no, he did not die.
I still think that he died. Like, that's still my gut instinct, is that he died.
Okay, but all these people were
How
alive.
can he be Rackstraw if he died?
I don't think he was Rackstraw. If he
You
survived...
just said he was Rackstraw.
if he survived, I think he's Rackstraw. I think that's the most possible suspect.
She's
I'm
playing
s-
both sides of the fence
I'm
here.
still saying I think he died.
Okay, but remember Richard Floyd McCoy? He did the same copycat flight hijacking and he survived the flight. No problem.
It's possible.
It's possible to survive it. I'm not saying it's not. I don't think he survived it.
The other thing I wanted to throw out there is $200,000 in $20 bills weighed a lot of money. So people really, analyzed this. And he had these 4 parachutes that he was jumping with one. He took 4 because he thought one of them would be rigged to fail. So he wanted to make sure that he took enough.
Sure.
And then he put them in a knapsack, the cash in a knapsack, and it was too big to fit in the knapsack. So he put some cash in the knapsack and some of it in a parachute. And they think that maybe when he jumped, the one that was in the parachute broke free, and maybe that's the one that was on the beach.
With Pablo.
I mean, it
Pablo
makes
Escobar.
sense.
So many theories, and I don't know that we'll ever know.
No, we won't know.
I don't think we will.
And this
ever
is
know.
hurtful because I hate unsolves.
Well, thanks for presenting us with a 2-part unsolved mystery.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that
Listen, we have solved a lot of cold cases.
on this podcast.
Not on this
We've
pod.
done it ourselves.
Like, in our time.
Yes. I
Like,
know
in the
what you mean.
past, 20, 30 years, just with DNA analysis alone.
Well, it would be helpful to find those cigarette butts,
But that's
Christina.
what I'm saying. Like, there's no DNA to go off of this to...
Dirty.
I don't know. I wish we knew.
I wish we knew too.
I know, so it's fine.
But thank
She'll
you
never tell.
for telling us all about this episode. Or all about this episode. Gosh.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for this episode.
You're welcome.
Thank you for telling us all about
Dees.
DB Cooper. The
You're welcome.
Deebs, the Beebs.
The Deebs, the Beebs.
He's the OG Beebs. He's
Yeah.
Dees Beebs.
You call him a
Dees
kitty cat?
Bees.
He's a cat.
Oh gosh, I can't.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in this week to part 2 of DB Cooper. Make sure you check out last week's episode so that way you can listen to part 1. You can always find us at thetipsyghost.com with our socials linked from there, or send us an email at thetipsyghost@gmail.com.
Please give us a 5-star rating and a great review anywhere you listen to podcasts. We really appreciate it, and it really does help.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. We will catch you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.